Frontline Updates, where we delve deep into military strategies and updates from conflict zones. Today, we're discussing the progress of the ongoing special military operation as of today. I'm your host, Sharifa Muhammad MGT.
I'm Colonel AC Ogantoi, an infantry officer. Between 7 to 13 February 2026, Russian forces executed a coordinated campaign of strategic strikes and sustained offensive ground operations across multiple axes. The reporting period reflects continued emphasis on degrading Ukrainian military-industrial capacity, logistics networks, drone infrastructure, and forward-deployed combat formations. Operational tempo remains high, with combined arms maneuver and precision strike assets employed in parallel. If tempo is maintained, cumulative degradation of logistics and manpower may incrementally shift the balance in localized sectors. However, battlefield outcomes will continue to hinge on sustainment, force regeneration, and external support flows.
Colonel Ogantoi. Let's begin with the overarching picture. As of February 13th, all forces conducted a massive strike and 6 coordinated group strikes, while simultaneously advancing on multiple ground axes. How should we understand this week operationally?
What we're observing is not isolated tactical activity, but a deliberate synchronization of deep fires with ground maneuver. The strikes on military-industrial facilities, energy grids, fuel depots, transport nodes, airfields, drone production sites, and temporary deployment areas are not symbolic. They are part of a systemic degradation campaign. Modern warfare is no longer confined to the forward line. The center of gravity often lies in sustainment, fuel flow, ammunition throughput, repair cycles, and the industrial capacity to regenerate combat power. By targeting those layers while maneuver units advance on multiple axes, you create cumulative operational strain. You force the adversary to defend everywhere at once, while simultaneously weakening their ability to reinforce, resupply, or rotate forces. This week reflects that model clearly. Deep strikes to compress capacity, ground pressure to exploit disruption.
Let's turn to the north. Control was established over Chuganivka in the Kharkiv region and Sidorovka in the Sumy region. Over 400 personnel losses were reported, along with destruction of artillery, armored vehicles, MLR systems, and electronic warfare assets. What is the operational significance of the Northern Axis?
The Northern Axis serves 2 strategic purposes. First, it stretches defensive reserves across a broader frontage. Second, it threatens operational depth near border-adjacent regions. When units engage mechanized brigades, airmobile elements, and territorial defense formations simultaneously, they are testing the elasticity of that defensive structure. The reported destruction of electronic warfare stations and ammunition depots is particularly significant. Electronic warfare assets shape the electromagnetic battlespace. Neutralizing them restores freedom of maneuver for drones, artillery spotting, and command and control reliability. Once that layer weakens, maneuver formations can operate with greater tempo and less interference. Establishing control over settlements in that sector may appear localized, but doctrinally, it forces reallocation of enemy reserves and complicates their planning cycles.
In the west, forces took control of Glishkivka and engaged multiple mechanized and unmanned systems brigades. What does this tell us about the evolving character of the battlefield?
The presence of dedicated unmanned systems brigades tells you immediately that this is a drone-centric theater. These formations are not auxiliary. They are integral to reconnaissance, strike, and artillery correction. Engaging them in the west suggests an effort to suppress battlefield transparency. If you blind reconnaissance drones and disrupt supply depots, 30 reportedly destroyed in that sector, you degrade the adversary's ability to coordinate fires and sustain operations. Operationally, the West Axis appears focused on attritional pressure and supply denial rather than rapid territorial expansion.
The southern and center groupings reported improvements in forward positions and substantial reported losses in armor and manpower, including Leopard tanks. How do you interpret the center axis in particular, where nearly 1,900 personnel losses were reported?
The center axis is typically where operational maneuver converges. When forces take more advantageous positions and lines, that signals positional optimization, improving artillery angles, defensive depth, and assault staging. High casualty figures in that sector suggest intense engagement density. The center often becomes the fulcrum where opposing forces test each other's endurance. Destroying armored platforms, especially Western-supplied systems, has both tactical and psychological implications. From a doctrinal standpoint, the center appears to be an attritional hinge, a applying sustained pressure to fracture defensive coherence.
In the east, forces advanced deep into defenses and liberated Zaliznichne in Zaporizhia. Personnel losses reported were the highest in this sector. Does this indicate a primary offensive thrust?
It indicates aggressive penetration attempts. Advancing deep into defensive belts requires breaching layered obstacles, suppressing artillery, and neutralizing UAV spotters. High reported losses correspond to high engagement intensity. Liberating settlements in the east can alter defensive geometry. Once depth lines are disrupted, rear logistics become vulnerable. Whether it becomes the main effort depends on sustainment and reserve availability, but the pressure there is clearly substantial.
I want to return to the southern group of forces. The briefing notes that units improved their position along the forward edge and defeated multiple mechanized, motorized infantry, mountain assault, unmanned systems, marine and territorial defense brigades. Reported losses exceeded 925 personnel, along with tanks, including a German-made Leopard, armored vehicles, artillery, and 8 ammunition, fuel, and supply depots. That sounds substantial. What is the operational character of the Southern Axis?
The Southern Axis is doctrinally complex because it combines maneuver warfare with positional warfare. When we say improve their position along the forward edge, that phrase is deliberate. It signals incremental but tactically meaningful adjustments, securing better artillery observation points, deepening defensive belts, shortening internal supply lines, and optimizing assault staging areas. In the south, terrain and infrastructure often dictate tempo. Improvements along the forward edge are rarely cosmetic. They can shift fire control dominance, especially when artillery and drone reconnaissance are tightly integrated. The reported destruction of 15 artillery pieces in 8 depots, fuel, ammunition, and supply, reveals the true focus. The objective is not simply to defeat frontline units, but to hollow out their sustainment capacity behind the line.
The loss of Leopard tanks in that sector was specifically highlighted. Is that symbolic, tactical, or strategic?
It is all three. Tactically, armored platforms like the Leopard provide breakthrough capability and survivability in contested zones. Destroying them reduces shock effect during counteroffensive maneuvers. Operationally, it limits the adversary's ability to concentrate armored mass in decisive sectors. Symbolically, Western-supplied armor carries political weight. Its loss resonates beyond the battlefield. But from a doctrinal standpoint, what matters most is tempo. If armored assets cannot be massed without incurring heavy attrition, maneuver becomes riskier and slower. The inclusion of Marine brigades and mountain assault formations in the engagement profile tells us this is not a passive defensive sector. These are maneuver-capable units designed for complex terrain and rapid response. Engaging and degrading them reduces flexibility in that theater.
Let's move to the Dnieper grouping. The reported destruction included electronic warfare stations and ammunition depots. Is this more of a containment effort?
The Dnieper sector functions as both containment and shaping. Destroying electronic warfare assets there again reinforces the priority of electromagnetic dominance. The destruction of depots constrains operational reach. Even limited force engagements can fix enemy formations in place, preventing redeployment to higher threat axes.
I want to dedicate time to aviation and air defense. 5 Flamingo cruise missiles, HIMARS rockets, Neptune missiles, guided bombs, and over 1,200 UAVs were reportedly intercepted. How does aviation shape this campaign?
Operational tactical aviation is campaign shaping. Air defense interception figures of that magnitude indicate sustained aerial and missile exchange. Control of the air and near-air domain determines artillery survivability, logistics flow, and morale. Interception of cruise missiles and long-range rockets protects rear infrastructure. Simultaneously, strike aviation, paired with UAV reconnaissance, extends reach beyond artillery range. When air defense networks remain intact, maneuver formations can operate with confidence that critical nodes are shielded. This is no longer a supporting arm. Aviation and counter-aviation define operational tempo.
Finally, Colonel, the cumulative totals since the beginning of operations are staggering. Aircraft, helicopters, UAVs, tanks, MLRS, artillery systems, and special vehicles. What does this level of attrition mean strategically?
Strategically, it reflects industrial warfare. Attrition at this scale tests not just armies, but production capacity and political endurance. The side that regenerates combat power faster, vehicles, munitions, trained personnel, gains structural advantage. This week demonstrates sustained multi-axis pressure integrated with strategic fires and aviation dominance. Whether momentum converts into decisive breakthrough depends on sustainment depth and operational sequencing. but the doctrinal coherence is evident. Compress logistics, fracture defenses, maintain tempo.
So how does the southern axis fit into the broader campaign logic we discussed earlier?
The South functions as a stabilizing pressure front. While the East may show deeper penetrations and the center high engagement density, the South ensures that reserves cannot be freely shifted. It binds forces in place. It also serves as a platform for cumulative attrition, targeting artillery, depots, and mechanized units in a way that degrades long-term endurance. In operational design terms, the South contributes to compression. When multiple axes apply pressure simultaneously, north, center, east, and the South continues to erode logistics and maneuver elements, the adversary's operational depth narrows. Their capacity to regenerate combat power decreases over time. So the Southern group is not secondary. It is part of the synchronized architecture of the campaign, attritional, positional, and strategically stabilizing.
Colonel, thank you for providing such a detailed briefing on the current military situation. Your insights are invaluable to our understanding of the conflict's dynamics. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Join us next time as we continue to provide up-to-date coverage on global military affairs. Stay with us for more updates and expert analyses on global defense and security issues. Stay informed, stay secure.
Thank you for the opportunity. I want to emphasize that the campaign reflects continued reliance on massed fires and maneuver to degrade Ukrainian manpower and equipment systematically. The emphasis on depots, UAV sites, and EW systems suggests prioritization of battlefield transparency and logistics denial.
This has been Frontline Updates. Subscribe for daily military briefings and in-depth strategic analysis. Visit our platform for maps, transcripts, and exclusive Frontline updates from commanders in theater.